Hi folks, so welcome to the revision session for our assessment coming up in a week or so. The best way to do this would probably be to download the attached resources which has got all of this on. Either that or you can just pause the video and stop and have a look that way, but I would recommend printing them off and giving it a go if you can. Right, so rotating a shape 180 degrees about 0.10. First thing to do, that is the center of rotation, so we need to find that. So 1, 0 along the corridor, 1 and then up 0 is there. Now you can do this with tracing paper, but I prefer just to do it by eye. What I mean by that is I pick one point on the shape I want to rotate and I put a straight line, and then I would think, right, if I was doing 90 degrees clockwise, I would think, well, that's going to go there to make a 90-degree angle. As it's 180 degrees, it's going to keep going the same distance the other way. So if I just continue that line on to there, that point goes to there. Now, for 180 degrees, every point is going to go straight through that center of rotation. So if that goes through to there, the same distance the other side, like being that point there, and this one here going through the same gets us to there. So those are our 3 points, and then all we need to do is connect those up, and that's our shape. Plans and elevations of 3D shapes. Some people find this really easy, some people find it a little trickier. We've got to draw the plan and side elevation. The arrow is telling you which side. So the plan, first of all, is the bird's eye view. So we're just looking at 3 centimeters across, and then it's coming down to there, isn't it? And it's kind of in an L shape like that. But because that top bit's a bit closer, we should show that that's a bit closer, just like that. And that's the plan. From the side, it's an L with 2 on the bottom and 1 up the side like that, and 1 more up the side like that. So there's the side elevation, and if you label which drawings are which, then there can be no doubt about it. Question 3, drawing an isosceles triangle. Now for this you've got to use a compass, otherwise you will not be getting full marks. So I'm going to start by drawing the 5 centimeter one, because these two are both the same. So the 5 centimeter line you can just draw with a ruler at exactly 5 centimeters and label that as 5. Then I'm going to open my compass up to 4 centimeters or 40 millimeters, just like that. As long as it's within a millimeter, it'll be okay. Then the reason I'm doing this is I want to get a point that is both 4 centimeters from this end and 4 centimeters from that. So if I put the compass point in one end of the line and do an arc, now I know it's going to be straight up the middle here somewhere. I'm just going to put an arc there that I'm sure is covering all the points I need. Then if I go to the other end, put the point in and do another arc, where they cross is both 4 centimeters from here and 4 centimeters from there. So then all I have to do is draw straight lines there and there. Now it might look neater if you rub out those construction lines, but it's very important that you keep them in, because that's what the examiner wants to see. Question 4 is a loci question. Now it says the scale is 1 centimeters to 2 meters, and a chair is going to be placed closer to AB than BC. So AB and BC are lines, and it's also got to be 14 meters from D. Let's do one part at a time. Now closer to AB than BC, we're going to need a sort of diagonal line going up here. We're going to have to bisect the angle ABC that connects AB and BC. And in order to do that, we get our compass again, and you make a couple of marks just a little way along so that they are both the same distance from the centre of the angle, that is. And then you pick up your compass and you move to where that arc was. Open the compass up a bit more, doesn't matter exactly how much, just so that they're going to be able to cross. So all those points are a certain distance from there, and then if I put the point of the compass on where the other arc cuts BC, oops, got that wrong a bit. Make sure you put your weight on the point here, not on the pencil. Where they cross will be the same distance from AB as BC, and then you just get your ruler and draw a straight line through there. So we know it's got to be closer to AB, so it's going to be over here somewhere, but it's also got to be less than 14 meters from D. Now 14 meters from D, 14 meters must equal 7 centimeters, because every centimeter is 2 meters. So I get my compass again and I open it up to exactly 7 centimeters. Put the center of the circle I'm going to draw on D. I'm not going to do a whole circle, just the bit that's within the room. So both closer to AB and less than 14 meters is just going to be this little section here. So that is where we can put our chair. Don't know why, doesn't matter. Okay. Factorizing a quadratic. So remember, we want to use the sum and product rule. So we're looking for a pair of numbers that sum to make negative 11, but their product is 28. So they multiply to make 28, but they add to make negative 11. 7 times 4 is 28, and 7 plus 4 is 11. So negative 7 plus negative 4 is negative 11, and a negative times a negative is a positive, isn't it? So they're both negative, so we want x take 7, x take 4 in brackets. Now we can use that to solve this equation here, and all we need to do is, if we factorize that side, that means x take 7 times x take 4 is equal to 0. And then we use the fact that if you multiply two numbers together and you get a product of 0, one of those numbers must be 0. So either x take 7 equals 0 or x take 4 equals 0. Well, if x take 7 is 0, x must be 7, because 7 take 7 is 0. And if x take 4 equals 0, x equals 4. So we get two solutions, 7 and 4. This last one here for factorizing is a slightly special case. It's called the difference between two squares, and the reason it's called that is because y squared is a square of a kind, and 9 is a square number, and if you take one number from another, you find the difference between them. And that means we need to do the square root of 9, and it'll be y plus 3, y take 3. And the reason for that is, if you expanded this, you'd get plus 3y and minus 3y, and your y's would disappear. And you're just left with y squared minus 9. Right. So this question is one about something else to do with squares. This one is called completing the square. This is a bit of thing that takes a little getting used to. I'm going to have to do my working over here because it's going to take a little bit. So I'm going to write x squared minus 8x take 5. And the bit I'm bothered about at first is this bit here. Because I know that I could get x squared take 8x out of a double bracket of x take 4 squared. Because I'd get x squared, I'd get minus 4x and minus 4x, making minus 8x. But I would also get negative 4 times negative 4 is 4 squared, which is 16. So x minus 4 squared would give me, and that's going to be 16 more than what I want in that bracket. So I'm going to say I need to take that 4 squared away, but then I've still got the minus 5. Then I'm going to say, right, well, what is that? That's x minus 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. Take 16 and take 5. What do I get if I take 16 and then take 5? I get 16 plus 5 is 21, so I get 21 that I'm taking away. So that means that my value of p equals 4, because a 4 is what I pop in there, and q, well that says plus q and that's a negative, so q is negative 21. The reason it then says about sketching the graph is completing the square is a really good way to find the bottom of a curve, or the top of the curve, depending on what sort of one it is, so the turning point basically. And what this is saying is the turning point is going to be the point at which this bracket is worth 0, because that's going to be the lowest number you can get, because all square numbers are positive. We want this to be 0. So when x is 4, y would be negative 21, because if we were doing the graph of y equals that, imagine x is 4, that'll be 0, 0 take 21 would be minus 21. That's the lowest point of the curve, and because it's x squared, that means it's going to be a curve that looks like that. If it was negative x squared, it would be a sad one, and it would be like that. So I'm going to draw something like that, but I'm going to bear in mind where this is coming through. So where's 4 and negative 21? Well, the scale doesn't have to be absolutely spot on. If I go to negative 21 down here, I'm going to plot that, and then I'm going to have a curve sort of going up like that. It's going to look something like that. That's not very nicely done, but anyway. And I can also put one other thing on. The y-intercept is that value there, so I can put minus 5 on there. And the coordinates of the minimum point are what we've just done there, 4, negative 21. Right, sorry about the scrawled out change in the question here. This is what you should have on the sheet that's loaded up online. So what we need to do, if you've got a negative amount of y's and a positive amount of y's, if they were the same amount, if that was plus 4y and you added 4y to negative 4y, the y's would disappear. And that's the key to simultaneous equations, getting rid of one of the unknowns, and then you can solve the other one. Because if you've got two unknowns, then you can have all sorts of combinations. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 2 this bottom equation, and that's going to give me 2x plus 4y equals 18, everything doubled. I'm then going to move this one down here and write that underneath again. Then I'm going to add this equation to that one. So 10 to 18 makes 28. Negative 4y to 4y makes nothing. 5x to 2x makes 7x. Then all I need to do is divide by 7, and I've got that x equals 4. So I've done the hard part now. All I've got to do is substitute back into the easiest equation. I reckon the easiest one is this one. And I'm going to substitute x equals 4. So instead of x, I'm going to write 4 plus 2y equals 9. Then I'm going to take 4 from both sides to
give me 2y equals 5. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to give me 5 over 2, or 2.5. Okay, these simultaneous equations are a couple of levels harder. These have to be done by substitution from the beginning. So what we do is we take the simple one, which has got x as the subject of the formula, and say, right, I'm going to get rid of my x's in here, in this equation of a circle with x squared plus y squared, by replacing x with 2y minus 3. So that will look like 2y minus 3 is x, so that says x squared, so it needs to be squared, plus y squared equals 41. So the next thing I need to do is expand that double bracket. That means 2y minus 3 times 2y minus 3. So let's use a grid to do that. 2y take 3, 2y take 3. And remember, we're multiplying. So 2y times 2y is 4y squared. Negative 3 times 2y is negative 6y. Negative 3 times 2y is negative 6y. And negative times negative is positive, so we get 9 there. So what's that give us? It gives us 4y squared. Negative 6 plus negative 6 is negative 12y plus 9. Then we've got our y squared from there before, and that equals 41. Next I can simplify this by adding my y to my negative 12y, and that's giving me 4y squared, take 11y, plus 9 equals 41. Then, to solve a quadratic equation, which this is, I need to make the whole thing equal 0. So let's go again. 4y squared, take 11y, plus, 9 take 41 is negative 32 equals 0. And then I'm looking to factorize that equation. Hang on, I think I made a mistake there. I forgot to put that was a y squared, not a y. So when I simplify this, that's still going to be minus 12y, isn't it? That's going to add 1 to there. So let's write this again. We get 5y squared minus 12y minus 32 equals 41. Now that's quite a tricky quadratic to factorize. It's worth going with because there's 5 marks for this question. So what we do is we multiply the coefficient of y squared and the number at the end. 5 times negative 32. You can use your calculator to do this. Gives you 160 or negative 160. But I'm just going to think about the number 160 and say, right, if I'm multiplying two numbers together to get a negative, and I'm adding to get a negative, that means the difference between those two numbers is going to be 12, and they're going to be multiplying to make 160. So what have we got? 1 and 160, we've got 2 and 80, 3 doesn't, 4 does, 4 goes in 40 times, 5 does, 32 times, difference between those isn't enough yet, 6 doesn't go in, 8 goes in 20 times. All the difference between 8 and 20 is 12. So then I'm going to rewrite this, that's 5 squared, and we want it to be negative, so we want the bigger one to be negative and the smaller one to be positive. Take 20y plus 8y, take 32, doesn't equal 41, equals 0. Then we separately factorize these two parts here. 5y on the outside gives us y squared. 5 times 4 is 20, so 5 times negative 4 will give us negative 20y. That means one of my brackets is y take 4. What do I need to times y by to get 8y, and 8 times 4 is 32, so that all works too. So that means we are looking at 5y plus 8, y take 4 equals 0. Now the solutions are going to be y equals 4, because they're what makes the bracket equal 0, just like before, or 5y plus 8 equals 0. So I could take 8 away, that would give me negative 8, and then divide by 5, and I get y equals negative 8 over 5. We're almost there now. Then we go back into the easy equation and we find out what x is then. So if y equals 4, x equals 2 times 4, take 3. So that's 8 take 3, which is 5. So x equals 5. And then we also put that one in. So x is going to be 2 times negative 8 over 5, take 3. And if you're struggling with that, remember you've got a calculator. So 2 times negative 8 over 5, take 3 equals, and it says minus 31 over 5. And do you know what? That is actually fine to put in as your answer, minus 31 over 5. So that's, sorry, that should be x, shouldn't it? Not y. And there are two solutions. Okay, moving on. Now here's another quadratic for us to solve, but this time don't worry about factorizing it. You don't have to. In fact, the other one, if you didn't like doing all that factorizing, you could use the quadratic formula. And the good news this year is that we've just been given a list of formulae that you're going to not have to remember to try to make things a bit easier because of COVID. So the quadratic formula, now I know some of you know this already, but it is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a when you've got your formula in the, your equation in the form of ax squared plus b times x plus c equals 0. So we need to plug these values into that. So x is going to equal negative b. Well, b is 1. A equals 5, b equals 1, and c equals negative 11. We just need to plug that in. So b is going to be negative 1. If b was a negative number here, by the way, then I'd have to put positive there. B squared will be 1 squared. Take 4 times 5 times negative 11 all over 2 times 5. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just getting your calculator at that point and putting all of that in. So press the fraction button, negative 1 plus square root 1 squared, even though you know that that's 1. Take 4 times 5 times negative 11, close the brackets, pop down to the bottom, 2 times 5, press equals, and it says but we don't want it as the exact form. If it said exact form, that would be your answer. But it says here, correct 3 significant figures. So if you press S to D, you get 1.386. That's got 4 figures in it that I've copied down, and then I say, right, that's going to be 1.39. But there are 2 answers, because it could also be a minus. Now you don't have to type it all in again, just use the cursors, go back into the, and come back, and where it says plus, delete that, type minus, press equals, and it gives you almost the same thing. But it's the minus there was above there, now it's under there, and that does make a difference, folks. If I press S to D, that's giving me negative 1.586, so that rounds to negative 1.59, and that's all the marks there. So you may well find that easier for factorizing tricky, for solving tricky quadratic equations. Now here's a much simpler bit of algebra. Solve this in the same way that you would solve an equation. So ignore the inequality for now, and then just think about what it's asking in the answer. So the first thing to do is to add 3. So I've now got 4x is more than 19. Then I'm going to divide by 4 to get x is more than 19 over 4. Which is 4.75. It wants the largest value of x, and it says x is an integer. Well, an integer is not a whole number, isn't it? So x could be anything bigger than, and I've just realised I've asked this question slightly wrong. I meant to put this the other way when I made this up. So, sorry. So this is saying x is smaller than 4.75. So the biggest whole number it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be 3, 2, 1, 0, negative numbers, but the biggest number it could be would be 4, would be the largest number it could be. Okay, now tests don't always get harder the further in you go. We're onto the probability side of things now, which you'll probably find a bit easier. So use the table to estimate the probability that a 2 will be rolled. So frequency means how many times something has happened. If we add all these numbers up, we get how many times the dice has been rolled. So use your calculator, 18 plus 23 and so on, and that is exactly 100. So the probability that a 2 will be rolled is going to be 23 out of 100. If you write 23%, that's fine. If the dice is rolled another 300 times, how many 5s would you expect to roll? So in that other 300 times, well, that's 3 times as many, isn't it? 300 than 100. So you just need to do 24 times 3, which is 72. Question 12. So you just need to remember all the probabilities are going to have to add up to 1. And it says landing on a 1 is twice the probability of landing on a 3. Well, first of all, 0.32 and 0.17, they add up to make 0.49. So this and this are going to add up to make 0.51, so it all adds up to 1, and we know that this is twice the probability that, so that's going to be twice the number. So if the probability of 3 was x, say, this would be 2x, wouldn't it? Altogether, what have we got? 2x plus x is 3x is going to equal 0.51. So if I divide by 3, 0.51 divided by 3 is 17 over 100, or 0.17. So 0.17 will go there, and then just times that by 2 will give me 0.34 just there. Little Johnny's going to spin the spinner 200 times. Work out an estimate for how many times it will land on 2. Well, all you have to do is take the probability, which is 0.32, and times it by 200. It probably won't do exactly that, but that's the most likely thing to happen. It could be a bit more, could be a bit less, but that would give us 64. Time to dream of a white Christmas. So, the probability that will snow in Paris on Christmas Day is 0.06. And it says work out the probability it will snow in Paris on both Christmas Day 2015 and 2016. Well, that's going to be, that's and, isn't it? So you multiply then, so 0.06 times 0.0666 is a 36. You're going to have 4 things after decimal point, but remember you've got your calculator, so take the strain off, do it that way. Oh, and if it gives it to you in standard form, that's a good opportunity to practice that. So that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, divided by 10,000. And moving on from there, work out the probability it will snow in Paris on either Christmas Day or 2015 or 2016, but not on both. Right, we're going to need a probability tree diagram to think about this, I think. So 2015 we have first. Snowing. So that's it. We write snow there, not there. So that'll be 0.06. So not snowing must be 0.94 because they add up to 1. Snow, not. Snow, not. So this is 2015, this is 2016, and it will be the same probability again. Right, so we want either, so it's going to be one or the other. So we want this one, and we want this one, but it's not going to be on that one. And it's saying nothing about it not snowing at all. It doesn't want it not snowing at all, so we just want these two. So this one is going to be 0.06 times 0.94. That one is going to be 0.94 times 0.06. And then it doesn't matter if you have that one or that one, and when it's or, we add. So we're going to add our answers to that. So 0.06 times 0.94 is 0.0564, and we're just going to add that to itself, or you could just say times that by 2, and that's going to give you 0.1128. Okay, final question, folks. So a whole load of information about people liking 3 sports. 60 people have been asked, but the thing is, if you were to, you've got 8 people liking all 3, 17 liking rugby and football, 13 liking football and cricket. But if you were to add all of these up, you're going to get more than 60. So that's a bit tricky. The thing that's going to really help you here is a Venn diagram. So you want to draw a Venn diagram, and that Venn diagram is going to need 3 loops. One for rugby, one for football, one for cricket, and then you need to have a rectangle round it that is called the universal set. So all the numbers in here, every region is going to have a number, and they're all going to add up to 60. Some of these things we can't put in. I can't put 17 in for liking rugby and football because some of those 17 people are going to like all of them. I can put 8 people liking all 3 sports though, because that's undoubtable. Now that I know 8 people like all 3 sports, 17 like rugby and football. So that must mean that there's 9 who like rugby and football but don't like cricket. 13 people like football and cricket. Well, we've got 8 liking football and cricket already, so that's another 5. 19 people like rugby and cricket. We've got 8 already liking rugby and cricket, so another 11 gets us there. Now, 35 people liking football. Well, 9 add 8 add 5 is 22. So 35 take 22 is 13 people more like needing football. Now we've got to make all of this add up to 27. At the moment we've got 19 plus 5 is 24, so another 3 just like cricket. And 30 people liking rugby, well 9 and 11 makes 20, 28, so just 2 people liking rugby only. And then we need to know people who like neither rugby or football or cricket. So we need to know this number. So I'm now going to have to add all of these together. So I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to go around and use my calculator. 2, add 9, add 8, add 11, add 3, add 5, add 13 is equal to 51. So it must be 9 to make 60. So 9 will be our final answer. Okay, take your time, go through any of the ones that you really didn't understand again a couple of times, and then you should be in a good position for the test next week. Bye bye.